Hey everyone, welcome. Today we are going to be checking out the Ohio Statehouse. So, the Ohio Statehouse in Columbus, Ohio is the seat of Ohio's government, housing the General Assembly, the House and the Senate, and the ceremonial offices for the governor, lieutenant governor, and other state officials. It was built in the Greek Revival style and is a National Historic Landmark and one of the oldest working statehouses in the U.S. It features a grand rotunda, historical chambers, and the Capitol Square complex with the Senate building and atrium. Before you even enter the Statehouse itself, there's a lot to see on the grounds outside. At the Ohio Veterans Plaza, they have this monument honoring Ohio men and women who served in the U.S. military, with inscriptions recording letters that were sent home to family and loved ones. It was really moving to stop for a minute and read these different letters. It lended a very personal perspective. Around the corner from this, they had the Ohio Holocaust and Liberators Memorial. Made out of bronze and steel, it was installed on the Ohio State grounds in June of 2014 and was unveiled by the governor along with its architect, Daniel Libeskind. Here we have the Christopher Columbus Discovery Monument, which stands 9 feet tall and was installed in 1992. This monument was erected by the state of Ohio to honor the memory of the Ohio veterans of the Spanish-American War, the Philippine Insurrection, and the China Relief Expedition. It was dedicated on June 23, 1928. Right here on the west lawn of the Ohio Statehouse is the William McKinley Monument, honoring Ohio's own 25th U.S. President. The bronze and granite memorial was sculpted by Herman Atkins McNeil and dedicated in 1906, just a few years after McKinley was assassinated in 1901. As you enter the Statehouse itself, they have a screen on the left, which indicates where the different offices are located within the Statehouse, and on the right, they have a TV screen showing the different events that are coming up. As you enter towards the map room, they have a sign indicating where you can get a free tour that runs on the hour every hour, and they have various displays discussing Ohio and the Statehouse's early history. Ohio became a state in 1803, but the capital didn't always look like this. Before Columbus, the capital moved between Chillicothe and Zanesville until Columbus was chosen in 1816 because of its central location. The Ohio Statehouse itself took a long time to build. Construction started in 1839 and wasn't finished until 1861, taking about 22 years and costing roughly $1.5 million, a huge amount at the time. And fun fact, 8 U.S. presidents came from Ohio, earning it the nickname the Mother of Presidents. This section of the museum honored those Ohioans who had been awarded the Medal of Honor. Of those included Joseph Gregg during the Civil War and Ronald E. Rosser in the Korean conflict. This display commemorated the many famous people who are from the state of Ohio, including Wilbur and Orville Wright, aviation pioneers, John Glenn, the first American to orbit Earth, and Neil Armstrong, the first person on the moon. This is one of 55 full-size Liberty Bell replicas commissioned by the U.S. Treasury Department and cast in 1950 as a gift to the states and territories of the United States, making Hawaii and Alaska the only 2 states that didn't receive one. And walking over to this side of the display, we have another bell. This one is Ohio's Bicentennial Bell. It was created in 2003 to celebrate Ohio's 200th year of statehood. The rest of the museum was full of artifacts from the history of hotels that once surrounded the Capitol Plaza to items that were used in local parades by Civil War Union veterans. The Ohio Statehouse was built in large part by local prisoners who used these very tools. They were paid 25 cents an hour on average, and many of them received shortened sentences for their help in the Statehouse's construction. They even had this literal ball and chain, which prisoners were required to wear at all times, even while working on the Statehouse. In the hallway leading to the offices in the building, they had a POW remembrance display and a collection of military memorabilia remembering those from the state of Ohio who had served in the U.S. military. Then from here you enter the main office area. This portion of the building was designed specifically with sunlight in mind. Each office has large windows and the hallway an extended sunroof. This original design feature was intended to save money on oil for lamps that were used to produce light at that time. This office space, which over the decades ended up growing more and more crowded, ended up undergoing a major renovation in the 1990s to restore the building to its original design, minus the newly installed elevators. Other than a few remaining key offices, the rest of the employees moved across the street in various other buildings nearby. So today, if you hear someone say they work at the Statehouse, their offices might just be here across the street. And a really fun addition to this building, much of the stone that was used to build it contains real fossils of ancient creatures. You can see this guy here with all those legs, and down in the museum section I spotted this spiral shell-like fossil. These can be found throughout the Capitol and in the visitor center. They also offer a pamphlet you can read which guides you through the different fossils that are available to see. But now it's time to make our way past the offices towards the Rotunda and take a stop to see where the Ohio Senate meets. When this chamber opened, the senators did not have any other offices. They did their work right here at these desks. Due to this, the small chairs in the front got dubbed the whisper chairs because back in the day, if a senator wanted to have a private conversation about if they were going to support a bill or not, they had to go up to the front and try to whisper their conversations quietly. Up in front is a bookcase containing Ohio law. Today, with the internet, most people will choose to read them online, but they still sit here symbolically representing what the Senate is working on. The big marble desk in the front was brought into the room before it was even carved or the walls had gone up. And there is a space here where I am for the public to watch while the Senate is in session, as well as a place for the press. Most everything here looks just as it did when it first opened. A few changes were made in the 1990s when they added a drop ceiling with fluorescent lights and metal desks. So the desks and lights that you see today are replicas of the originals. If you notice in the middle of the center chandelier, there are 4 women on it. And when this chamber opened, they were the only women in this chamber. Carrying forward the Greek revival style, these muses were meant to inspire the senators to do bigger and better things for the state of Ohio. And here, just outside the room, we have a list containing all of those senators who are part of this 136th General Assembly. As you make your way out of the Senate, you're greeted by this stunning view of the Capitol Rotunda. Directly straight across is where the House meets, and below is the floor of the Rotunda. That spiral pattern is actually a Fibonacci circle. From the floor to the top of the dome, it's 128 feet, and the seal at the top, although it looks tiny from our vantage point, is actually 3 feet across. If you stand in the center and speak, the echo reverberates off the walls. This space can be rented for occasions such as weddings, and many notable people have lied in state here, including John Glenn as well as Abraham Lincoln. In the Rotunda, this huge painting immediately caught my attention. This was the first painting purchased for the Statehouse. It depicts Oliver Hazard Perry, a naval officer, leading his men during the War of 1812 on Lake Erie. During this battle, he had to use merchant ships, with merchant sailors trying to battle against the British, who had the greatest navy known to man at the time. Here in this scene, when he had to leave one of his fallen ships, he had to take his men to a new one. But against all odds, the battle was won. Oliver Perry is quoted as saying in his classically understated manner, "We have met the enemy, and they are ours." After this battle, people started supporting the war more, feeling a resurgence of hope, making this moment a major turning point of the war. And there's actually a larger version of this painting hanging in the US Senate, but this is the original. And here is a memorial to the Battle of Vicksburg, Ohio actually played a major role in the Battle of Vicksburg during the Civil War. Dozens of Ohio regiments fought in General Ulysses S. Grant's army, helping to lay siege to the city in 1863. When Vicksburg fell, the Union gained control of the Mississippi River, splitting the Confederacy in two, which was a major turning point in the war, and Grant, an Ohio native, would later become president. At the top, you see the bust of Lincoln. Lincoln is known to have sat for only 3 or 4 busts to be made in his lifetime, and this is one of them. Artists come here to sketch it because it's believed to be one of the most accurate depictions of President Lincoln. Here, off to the side of the rotunda, we have some paintings. This first one depicts the signing of the Treaty of Greenville, which ended the battle between natives and Europeans for the land that would become Ohio. And actually, before this massive painting was hung here, in order to prove the weight could be supported to concerned statesmen, 1,000 pounds of iron was hung on the hook, which now holds this painting to this day. On this side, we have a depiction of Thomas Edison, an Ohio native who's credited with inventing the incandescent light bulb along with the phonograph. Then, on the other side, we have 2 more paintings. One featuring 4 prominent astronauts from Ohio, John Glenn, Neil Armstrong, Jim Lovell, and Judith Resnick, along with flight director Gene Kranz. And on the other side, we have a tribute to Orville and Wilbur Wright, aviation pioneers. As we make our way up to the opposite side of the Statehouse, we come to the House Chamber. It wasn't open to the public today, but I was able to get a glimpse of it through the door window. In front of the entrance, they had this bust of William M. McCulloch, who served Ohio's 4th Congressional District from 1947 to 1973. There was an excerpt behind the bust from a speech which he gave in the Senate in 1971. And as you followed the hallway down, you could see additional office space and meeting rooms, including that of the Speaker of the House. The last main feature of the building to see is the original Supreme Court building for the state of Ohio. It was built from 1899 to 1901 specifically to give the court its own space outside the Statehouse. Construction was completed in 1901 and it cost about $375,000 to build, so considerably cheaper and faster than the Statehouse itself. These 2 buildings used to be separate and are now connected by this atrium. It's used today for period dances, wedding receptions, and luncheons. Lincoln actually gave a speech here in 1859, and they have this plaque here, which was installed in 1934, commemorating the occasion. It was such a peaceful space with lots of architectural details to notice, and a funny story, apparently when these buildings were still separate from each other, there was a problem with birds sitting on the ledges and leaving droppings on people's nice black suits below as they went between the buildings. And it was such a problem, they had to offer umbrellas for people to use as they ran between the buildings. And so this bird here was placed as a little nod to what once was. As you enter the old Supreme Court building, you can see how grand the design was. Apparently, it was modeled after the Paris Opera House and was meant to evoke a sense of importance and grandeur. The paintings on the ceiling are meant to represent the 4 main areas of Ohio life: manufacturing, farming, arts, and the judicial system. This building was actually one of the first to offer electricity, and it was such a new invention at the time that when these posts here were constructed, they actually still included a box for oil, just in case the whole electricity thing turned out to be a fad and they needed to go back to the oil lamps. They also have a room here for hearings, as well as a sign for a law library. Out of curiosity, I wanted to see what the current Ohio Supreme Court building looks like, so I took a walk a few blocks down from the Capitol to take a look. Here it is. It's definitely much taller than the original, and the plaque here says it was erected in 1931 and restored in 2004. Just the entrance doors alone are stunning, along with the ornate detail like the mosaic tile design on the ceiling. They also had this monument that reads, "Education and morality constitute the force and majesty of free government." and just to the left of the building entrance, they had this giant gavel outside. The plaque next to it said it was made of stainless steel and installed in 2008. But anyways, back to the State House. As you exit the old Supreme Court building and go down the stairs, you come back to where we started at the Visitor Center. Here they have a gift shop, of course, and lots of fun things to look at, shop around, and maybe pick up a souvenir or two to remember the trip by. This postcard has the Ohio State flag on it, which I forgot to mention before. Ohio State flag is actually one of the most unique in the country because it's not a rectangle. It's a swallowtail pennant, the only U.S. state flag with that shape. It was adopted in 1902 and designed by John Eisman. The stars on it symbolize Ohio as the 17th state, while the white circle also forms an O standing for Ohio itself. Everyone was so kind to me here, from the tour guide to the security staff and those working in the buildings. It really was a wonderful experience getting to learn about the state's history and contributions to the nation. Even when walking out, I saw this plaque and learned a little bit more about the role the State House and its grounds played in supporting soldiers during the Civil War. There is so much to see and learn here. You could come back several times and notice something different each time. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this trip as much as I did. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!